Uh, Rules. I hate rules. Always telling you what to do, what not to do, what you can do, what you can't do. They drive me insane. But as I like to say, where there's a rule, there's probably a loophole. And some very clever people out there have discovered the funniest, most creative loopholes imaginable. From reinventing baseball practice to tricking Spotify out of $20,000. Here are even more geniuses that brilliantly beat the system. Professional bodybuilders put in an incredible amount of blood, sweat, and bronzer to look the way they do. Each of them builds up mega muscles to compete at events around the world, all with the hopes of taking home a trophy, proving that they're the best in their weight category. However, back in 2011, Hamish Blake entered the New York State bodybuilding competition with a slightly different body build. The pasty Australian comedian strode out on stage next to a bunch of bronzed Adonis lookalikes and proceeded to throw down some super stupid poses. Andy Lee, his partner and coach, was watching from the sidelines, cheering him on and laughing along with the crowd. Now, initially, this was just meant to be a dumb stunt, except Hamish weighed in at more than 200 pounds, putting him in the heavyweight category. And he was the only one in there. This meant, despite entering as a joke, Hamish became the New York State bodybuilding heavyweight champion. I guess it just goes to show that brawn doesn't always beat bulk. Since music streaming platforms like Spotify became popular, artists have found it increasingly difficult to make money off their music. Spotify itself pays artists less than half a cent per stream on average, meaning 10,000 streams are needed to make just $50. But in 2014, American funk group Vulfpeck realized they could use this system to their advantage. They released an album called Sleepify onto the platform, which consisted of 10 30-second songs, all of which, get this, were completely silent. They asked their fans to stream the silent album on repeat while they slept, allowing them to rack up the royalties which would pay for their upcoming tour and guarantee everyone free admission. It seemed like a joke, but the tracks received approximately 5.5 million plays, paying out at $0.003 per stream. Just as it was gaining even more momentum, Spotify suddenly cottoned on to what they were doing and took the album down. But it was too late. By this time, Vulfpeck had earned some $20,000 from the scheme, and just as they promised, the free tour went ahead. So that's Vulfpeck 1, Spotify 0. If you're lucky enough to have worked at Australia's premier dessert shop, Goldilocks, you'll know the job of a sweet server comes with a few perks. Like every shift, you're allowed to help yourself to one small cup of gelato. Sounds tiny, but tasty. Except the shift workers have realized you can make the most out of a small cup by layering just about every flavor possible into the cup and really packing it down. I mean, it's technically still a small cup. How do I apply for a job here? As plastic and fake as some of them look, film sets are not cheap. For a professional-looking set, renting the space alone can cost upwards of thousands of dollars every single day. Well, this wasn't the kind of money production company Channel 101 had back in 2009, and so they decided to use their heads instead. Over the course of a year, they covertly filmed an entire season of a comedic spoof soap opera inside the IKEA store of Burbank, California. Using all the showrooms as sets, products as props, and visitors as extras, they filmed all 7 episodes of IKEA Heights without paying a dime for any of it. While stories of this frugal feat went viral, IKEA saw the funny side of it. Although they did warn against anyone trying similar stunts like this in the future. Well, that's one way to take beating the system to new heights. Have you ever told the age-old white lie to someone? Oh, I'm just gonna have a quiet night in. when you are, in fact, planning on going out partying. It used to be much easier to get away with, but with the invention of photo apps like Snapchat, social media users have had to get inventive to prove they are where they say they are. Like James here. He'd said to a girl he was at home, cozied up in bed, when he was, in fact, out with his friends. So when the girl asked for a picture on Snapchat to prove he was really in bed, the party crew rallied together. Using nothing more than a few coats, some artistic staging, and a sleepy look to the camera, the Snapchat pic was a winner, making it look like James was innocently in bed. Impressive as it is, it's no wonder social media gives people trust issues. Well, for what it's worth, I promise I'll never knowingly lie to you. If you trust me, go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. All done with that exercise? Great. What genius have we got next? Kids are hard work. They run around screaming and playing all day and never seem to run out of energy. Parents, on the other hand, have a finite supply of fun they can tap into and often need to sit down every 5 minutes. If only there was a way to do things like playing catch with your kids without leaving the comfort of your chair. Well, one dad by the name of Derek Radley has come up with the ultimate solution. By attaching his son's ball to the hook of his fishing rod, the kid can smack the ball as hard as he wants, and all Derek has to do is sit back and reel it in. This is basically the kid equivalent of those automatic ball throwers they make for dogs. What an epic dad hack. So in part 4 of this series, we saw some amazing moms who tricked their kids into taking their medicine without having to deal with all the tantrums that the terrible taste can bring with it. However, Yasmin Alexa Vargas stunned family Facebook forums when she posted a video of her son knowingly taking medicine without a tantrum. Instead of hiding the liquid ibuprofen, Yasmin simply pretended she didn't know how to use the medicine. Her son then ran to her rescue, happily showing her how to get the liquid out with the syringe. When she asked him what she should do next, he put the syringe in his mouth, pushed the plunger, and swallowed all by himself. Now that is some God-tier reverse psychology that saves everyone a headache. Some of us are more suited for caring for plants than we are for babies, though. Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of all the proud plant parents out there. The only problem with plants is that once you buy a few, the urge to buy more is impossible to ignore. Especially succulents. They're just so satisfying to look at. So, when Reddit user KittyCat03 promised their husband that they wouldn't buy any more succulents, they knew they had to resist the urge. But the thing with succulents is that they're easy to propagate. That is, grow an entirely new plant from a single healthy leaf cutting. With that being the case, KittyCat03 realized that by picking up discarded succulent leaves and propagating them, she wouldn't technically be paying for any new plants. Though, I don't think that was the problem her husband had. While picking up discarded leaves is fine, picking leaves off healthy plants you don't own is something of a crime. In fact, some plant nurseries have coined it prop lifting. And if you ask me, that pun is criminal. Ah, the airport. One of my least favorite places on Earth. Something about the lines, the regulations, the surprise charges, the delays, and the overpriced food, it really stresses me out. So maybe I should start taking a leaf out of TikTok user Sugar Tilly's book. In some of her videos, she explains that by feigning a limp the minute you get through the doors of an airport, you can get wheelchair assistance. The staff then wheel you through the airport, you clear security in 20 minutes, and they give you a seat upgrade. Okay, well, I've got to admit, this sounds like a hella improvement to the regular airport experience. This one doesn't sit right with me. Sure, it saves you stress, but someone who genuinely needs that wheelchair could be kept waiting for your lazy butt to get out of it. So in my humble opinion, this isn't someone beating the system as much as they are abusing it. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. There's nothing that ruins a cookout like a few pesky flies. Their incessant buzzing can drive you insane, and the bacteria on their creepy little legs is enough to make you gag. But what if you don't have a fly swatter? Well, trying to catch them with your bare hands is a nightmare. Luckily, Reddit user Harvard Domino has a solution. You don't need a fly swatter, provided you have a long stick, like a fondue fork and a sandal. Well, you know what they say. If you can't beat 'em, swat 'em. Man, the price of a movie ticket is extortionate these days. But comedian Bo Johnson has figured out how to cut that price in half by, ironically, pretending to be twice the size. He and his best friend wanted to pull a prank on their local movie theater by sneaking one of them in the same clothes the other was wearing. They practiced at home first, trying to figure out the best configuration. They quickly realized that having one of them cling like a koala onto the other's chest before throwing on some plus-sized clothes was all they needed to make them look like one big man. And so, in the parking lot of a movie complex, they assumed the position, threw the clothes on, and off they went. From ordering just 2 tickets for all 3 of them to getting their tickets checked at the door, no one batted an eye. They eventually got to an elevator where Bo and his conjoined buddy could separate, and then managed to go and see their film without having to pay for an extra ticket. Now, maybe it's because I've seen how they've done it, but it looks so obvious that someone was under there, I'm surprised nobody said anything. Maybe they were worried they'd offend him if he was actually that big? I mean, there's nothing more mortifying than asking someone when their baby's due, only to be told they're not pregnant. Well, clearly using this to their advantage, Bo and his bud got to see the Avengers for half off. And like the cap says,
whatever it takes.
Touting or scalping has become a huge issue for festivals and events in recent years. For those who don't know, people seeking a quick buck buy up huge amounts of high-demand tickets and then sell them on at a much higher price. So, in 2022, famous UK music festival Glastonbury started requiring ticket holders to upload photos of themselves, which would be used to check their identity on entry. A pretty neat idea, except touters just started uploading generic images to the site, assuming security wouldn't be checking them too closely. One lad apparently didn't realize this and ended up buying a touted ticket with the photo of a blonde, 40-year-old woman linked to it. Instead of admitting defeat, though, our man layered on some lipstick, grabbed a blonde wig, some sunglasses, a big hat, and tried his luck. Once the media got hold of his hilarious story, they found photos of him supposedly taken inside the festival, proving his drag disguise had actually worked. However, others noticed the photo was taken while he was still in the queue. Well, for that audacious act alone, I say this guy deserves to have been let in, because that quality performance belongs on the main stage. But that's not the only way people have bypassed Glastonbury's strict ticketing rules. Around 63,000 tickets are issued to performers and staff at the festival every year, including security, volunteers, traders, and medical personnel. Now, if you look the part and act like you're in a hurry, security won't always stop you to check your ticket, as TikTok user Molly Joe's dad realized. Instead of buying a ticket, he and his friend bought a set of paramedic uniforms and walked right in. They even filmed themselves having a great time enjoying all the festival had to offer, much to the surprise of several onlookers. Let's just hope no one thought they were actual paramedics, otherwise all that fun would have stopped dead. The rules for driving license photos vary from country to country, but most are quite strict. No hats, no headwear, nothing that obscures the face. Boring but necessary for an identity photo. There are, however, some exceptions for garments relating to religious freedoms, such as a habit or a turban, depending on where you are in the world. Now, incredibly, it's much easier to start a new religion than it is to circumvent driving license picture laws. To that end, back in 2005, a new religion named the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster was established. Its followers, known hilariously as Pastafarians, support the existence of a carbohydrate-based entity who they claim created the universe, controls gravity, and is also made of spaghetti and meatballs. While it's not exactly a traditional set of beliefs, and has been classed by some governing bodies as a pure satire, it does meet the requirements to be considered a legitimate religion in many places around the world. While it is satirical in nature, some Pastafarians continue to test the boundaries of what will be accepted as part of their religion. For example, some claim to express their religious freedom by wearing a colander on their heads. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Over the years, areas that have come to recognize the Church of the FSM and allow religious headwear expression in driving license pictures have accepted, or at the very least, had to consider allowing members of the church to wear colanders on their heads in their identifying photos. This has been allowed in limited cases in the UK, Austria, and even Russia. But it's contested in most American states and banned in others entirely. Still, states like Massachusetts have had to accept colander-headed photos in the past on religious grounds. Well, that's definitely one way to spice up your license. Do you have kids, or maybe a younger sibling? If you do, you'll know just how hard it is to try and get away with eating a snack without them immediately asking what it is and if they can have some. It's like they have a sixth snack sense. Well, one sugar-hungry parent who doesn't always want to share a bite of her food has devised a way to have her cake and eat it too. Or, I should say, ice cream sandwich. Brooke Rycroft from the UK conceals whatever she's eating from her little one using an oversized lettuce leaf. Her kid immediately thinks mom's eating something green, healthy, and gross, and so won't pester her for a bite. I wonder if that trick works on girlfriends. Disney World, the most magical place on Earth. Also, probably one of the most expensive places on Earth. I mean, a single-day adult ticket for $159, a child's for $154 for the theme park alone? Jeez. Well, at least babies get in for free, and that's what gave YouTube duo Michael Capes and Mickey Bolts an inspired idea. In an attempt to halve the cost and sneak one of them in, they modified a standard stroller so that the ironically named Mickey could fit in. Then, with Michael wheeling the stroller, they breezed right through the gates and paid for just one ticket. Doesn't take them long to find a bathroom, ditch the stroller, and go off and enjoy all the perks of the park. Who knew fooling the big mouse in charge would be such child's play? When you're at a restaurant and can't finish your food, most establishments are more than happy to provide you with a box to take your leftovers home in. Some will pack it for you, others expect you to do it yourself, which can be a little bit messy if, like me, you have all the coordination of Bambi on ice. While it seems kinda obvious that these establishments expect you to leave their crockery and cutlery, hence, the box, one kid figured he'd save himself the mess. When his dad asked him to box up his own leftovers, he just did this. No mess, no evidence, no problem. Look out, folks. With logic on this level, we might have a future presidential candidate on our hands. Do you ever get excited when you see a tin of cookies only to lift off the lid and realize it's overflowing with sewing supplies? Why is it always sewing supplies? It's like there's a conspiracy. Well, one guy used this common knowledge to his advantage when trying to keep his precious cookies away from prying fingers. In a move that's as genius as it is evil, he took a picture of a cookie tin filled with sewing supplies and printed and cut it out to the same size as the tin's opening, and placed it on top before replacing the lid. That way, whenever anyone figured they could sneak a cookie, they'd be vastly disappointed, not knowing the sweet treats were all hiding underneath. Seems unfair if you ask me, but I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles. It's illegal to drink alcoholic beverages in a lot of public spaces, and often not permissible to bring them into a place like a sports stadium or an arena. Many claim it's for public safety, but the same places charge ludicrous amounts for a single pint. Luckily, someone's figured out an ingenious way to sneak a few bevies into places like this on your person. Say hello to the beer belly. It's a holster that contains an 80-ounce flask, which hangs down by your stomach. Considering how many people sport a real beer belly these days, the shape doesn't look out of place under a t-shirt, and the liquid fun can be slurped up subtly through an attached straw. I've got a gut feeling about this product. Now, in the same spirit as the beer belly, there's another flask which might look a little less conspicuous in an office setting. Instead of hiding the flask in a body part, this 8-ounce flask is concealed within a tie. A tube is fed through the short end, allowing quick, easily concealable access to your drink of choice while you work that Friday overtime without killing your buzz. Ha! Sharon from HR will never catch me now. When it comes to tests and exams, some professors can be lenient and allow you to use a small cheat card that you create for yourself with key information on it. However, there's no rules about just how much information you can cram onto the card. And so, to maximize the amount of space he could use, this student wrote 2 sets of overlapping notes on the cards, one in red ink and one in blue ink. Then, using a snapped pair of 3D glasses, he could use the red lens to cancel out the red ink and see the blue notes, and the blue lens to see the red notes. Now, if I was his professor, I'd have given him top marks for this level of smarts alone. Now, for exams where no cheat sheets are allowed, some students use more covert tactics. You've all probably heard of students sneaking phones into exams or hiding answers on cards up their sleeves. But there are some methods that can be even more underhanded, or should I say, undernailed. To prevent having to scour their brain for each essential formula, this student made super small versions of each formula and pasted them onto the underside of their nails. I mean, you can't fault the level of creativity they needed to achieve this. However, I can't help but think that if they'd spent the same amount of time and effort just learning the formulas, they might have saved themselves from awkwardly squinting at their own hands during the test. I don't know. What do you think? Is this a winning formula or a losing trick? Let me know down in the comments. We really don't deserve dogs. They love us unconditionally, and we can even train them to stop doing things we don't like staying off the couch. However, one pooch figured out that getting off the couch was different to getting in the couch, and so whenever their owner came back and found them like this, there wasn't much they could say. Well, either the dog figured out a masterful way of circumventing the rules, or they were pretending to be a lost set of keys in hopes of getting some extra attention. And that's not the only dog who's figured out how to technically follow their master's commands. This very cute pooch knows he's not allowed in the kitchen area, but sometimes he likes to toe or nose the line, just to get that little bit closer to his beloved human. Or the food they're cooking. Yeah, having a dog myself, I know for a fact it's the latter one. But it's not just dogs that can craftily find their way around commands. While they're not exactly famous for their capacity to be trained, cats can be just as cunning. Like TikTok user Ureli King's cat, who knows for a fact he's not allowed on kitchen worktops. But somehow, he's figured out that if he leaves his back legs on the high seat, he's technically not all the way on the worktop, and so won't get in trouble. Smart as this is, he's only gotten away with this by a whisker. Being a woman is hard, but being a woman who's also a gaming streamer is much harder. Now, most people who enjoy gaming streams are happy to watch someone stream a video game playing as an underdressed female character. However, if a female streamer dresses the same way while they're live, the amount of abuse they can receive is shocking. Come on, guys, it's called the double standard for a reason. You can't have it both ways. Except one streamer figured out how to game this perverted paradox. Meet Twitch streamer and incredible cosplayer Pooper Noodle. She wanted to cosplay Vicus from the game Lost Ark. and decided to stay true to the character's, let's say, exaggerated design. So, she bought a breastplate with, large fake assets and wore it during the stream. Not only did she look the part, but she carefully concealed the neckline of the plate with a necklace, making the assets appear real. But she quickly established they weren't at the beginning of the stream, and because she wasn't technically underdressed, the army of internet pervs couldn't think of much to say. As such, they shut up and watched her play the game for the most part. So much so that her stream stats were driven up by around 99%, even though the assets were 100% fake. Well, if anyone out there still wants to complain that scantily clad women are stealing their viewership, now you know what you have to do. Ain't nothing stopping you buying a breastplate for yourself. Which of these geniuses do you think beat the system best? And have you ever found and exploited a secret loophole? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.